The 44-29 Memphis Grizzlies just fired their head coach, Taylor Jenkins. They are 9 games away from the playoffs. Andrew, what were your first thoughts when you saw this headline today?
I mean, just complete shock, right? I feel like everyone from there hasn't been any major reports, at least not that I know of this even being a rumbling of him being on the hot seat, much less him getting fired in like not the middle of the season, the end of the season, going into the playoffs. So just kind of unprecedented. I think is the word that you can use to kind of summarize this whole firing. It had to be some major drama. There had to have been something, because if you are not looking forward to moving into him into the next season, that's fine. You do it over the off season, or just, if something's not working, you wait a little bit. But for something like this to happen so close towards the end of the season, for the Memphis Grizzlies to be 44-29, for them to be tied with the Lakers for the fourth seed, like the Lakers have the tiebreaker, so the fifth seed officially. But like just in general, like a good Memphis Grizzlies team this year, for this to happen so close towards the end of the season, something major had to have happened. I would look for something to maybe come out in the next couple of days. I don't know for sure, but like it's just so insane for an organization to like let go of their head coach so close to what is the most important time of the season. So just for me, it was just such a crazy and unprecedented firing.
Yeah, I think everybody is waiting on some other news following this because there's got to be an extra reason for it. So I did a little bit of deep diving, if you will, because I'm immediately like, okay, what is going on with the Memphis Grizzlies that I have not been paying attention to this year? And I did find out that this is looking like more of a timing issue. It seemed like a lot of Grizzlies fans, as they were watching this season unfold, were ready for Taylor Jenkins to potentially not be with the team following this year. I think they felt like this team was cruising. Some of the offensive sets weren't working anymore, and maybe a change in the locker room was necessary, right? Because obviously we know this team has been through a lot over the last handful of years and kind of wants to get to a level that they're not at right now. So the firing of Taylor Jenkins, just in general, may not be a shock to a ton of Grizzlies fans, but 9 games away from the playoffs when they are a team actively in the playoffs, not just the play in, is honestly one of the more shocking things that I have ever seen. I don't know what this has to do with it, but my first thoughts is maybe a player or somebody like John Morant or anybody else on that roster had a major issue with Taylor Jenkins, and it's maybe a more recent development.
Mhm. And I would say John Morant or like Triple J would be like the only two players that could really step up and make a claim like that and have something like this be the results of it. Just because if a random role player on that team is like requesting that, like they're not a fan of Taylor Jenkins, they nothing that doesn't really move the needle. It would have to be something major for it to be this late in the season. So I like maybe like there was an argument or something just falling out with the two best players on that team. That's the only thing I could really see from like a player's perspective where this would make any sense. And then I just it just doesn't like it doesn't feel like a move that's ever happened before. So just again, just complete shock, and it feels like it'd have to be something completely big like that, where like a John Morant, like just complete falling out would have to be like maybe the sole cause, if not like one of the major causes of being let go 9 games away from the playoffs.
Obviously, John Morant is definitely their guy for the future, franchise player, and Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. But he has missed 30 games this season,
Mhm.
and they are still the fourth/the fifth seed. I believe they lose the tiebreaker to Lakers as of right now, but that's a pretty good spot, I still think, for this team. And like I said just a second ago, I know there were fans who were saying that they kind of thought that Taylor Jenkins could get fired at the end of this season, and they wanted to take another step in the right direction. But that's still a pretty decent season and it's still a pretty decent mark. And you have no idea what's going to happen in that first round. Now, if you match up against the Lakers, I think that's a tough draw for the Grizzlies, but before this firing, but you still are, I think, going to take your chances, see how far you can get. If you're going to get to the Western Conference Finals or something like that, you're probably going to have to go through the Lakers regardless, or the Nuggets, or the Thunder, or the Houston Rockets, who have won 10 out of their last 11 games. This almost feels like throwing in the towel a little bit to me. I don't know if they win a first round series now with their interim coach, whom they haven't even announced yet, which I'd imagine would be one of their assistants. So it just feels like almost a waving the white flag kind of moment for this season for the Grizzlies. And I think it's just too soon because I feel like there's still a lot of positives to take from this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, like, it hasn't been like an underperformance of a season. Now you come off of last year going into this year, and there are expectations, there are higher expectations than last year. But I mean, besides the Rockets massively improving and taking the step that forward that they like little to no one saw coming, They're behind the Thunder, who were the 1 seed last year. They're behind the Nuggets, who are always good, and then Lakers, who got Luka Doncic in the middle of the season, have progressively gotten even better than what they already were. So it's not like the 5 seed is a bad place for this Grizzlies team, and I just don't. Again, like we've just been saying, like the whole segment, I don't see anything. Like there'd have to be something huge for something like this to happen. So like they haven't been massively underperforming. They're comfortably in the 5 seed right now, if not like closer to the like tied for the 4 seed. So I just don't know.
I know there's a lot of different teams that would love to have Taylor Jenkins on their squads. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'd imagine he's going to be with another team at the start of next season. So it'll be a comparison game with how the Grizzlies end up finishing this year, who they bring in potentially after their interim coach, or if their interim coach is their coach next year, and then how Taylor Jenkins does with that new team. But time will tell.